The addition of the Berlin Marathon immediately developed into a world record level race because the pace was aggressive from the opening kilometer. The pacemakers targeted splits close to 2 minutes, 2 seconds marathon rhythm, forcing the lead group into sustained high-speed running much earlier than in a typical major marathon. The early kilometers were not perfectly even, but the intention was obvious. Nobody at the front wanted a tactical race. The goal was maximum speed from the start. And that approach quickly exposed which athletes possessed the aerobic capacity and biomechanical efficiency required to survive. Kipsang entered the race with a significant tactical advantage because Berlin had already been the site of his former world record. He understood how the course behaved at different stages, where momentum could be maintained through turns, and how to manage pacing over the long, flat sections. Kipsang's running mechanics were perfectly suited for marathon racing. His stride remained compact and economical, with minimal wasted motion. His shoulders stayed relaxed, and his cadence remained stable, regardless of pace changes. That efficiency mattered because marathon performance at world record pace depends not only on cardiovascular fitness, but also on energy conservation over thousands of repetitive ground contacts. Kenenisa Bekele approached the race differently. His movement patterns still reflected his background as the greatest track distance runner of his generation. Compared to Kipsang, Bekele showed more elasticity in his stride and more reactive mechanics during transitions in pace. His foot turnover looked sharper, especially when accelerating slightly after corners or repositioning within the lead group. While Kipsang focused on rhythm preservation, Bekele relied more heavily on responsiveness and stride efficiency developed through years of championship racing, over 5,000 and 10,000 meters. Through 5 kilometers, the pace remained directly aligned with world record projections. Several athletes stayed attached to the lead pack initially, but the speed already created visible stress inside the group. Marathon running at that intensity rapidly increases glycogen consumption and places enormous pressure on lactate clearance systems. Athletes unable to maintain relaxed mechanics under those conditions gradually lose efficiency even before obvious fatigue appears. The pacemakers were critical during the opening half because drafting reduced wind resistance and helped stabilize tempo. On a flat course like Berlin, rhythm disruption can be costly, especially when athletes attempt to maintain kilometer splits near 2:55 pace. Bekele stayed slightly behind the pacemakers during long straight sections, conserving energy whenever possible. Kipsang frequently positioned himself closer to the front, appearing comfortable with direct pace responsibility. At 10 kilometers, the field had already begun to separate. The race no longer resembled a traditional championship marathon, where large packs remained together deep into the second half. The tempo filtered runners according to pure endurance capability. Athletes with weaker aerobic efficiency gradually drifted backward because the pace left no room for recovery phases. Bekele looked exceptionally relaxed during this stage. His arm carriage remained controlled, and his head position stayed stable even during slight pace increases. That detail mattered because upper body tension often becomes an early indicator of physiological stress in marathon racing. Kipsang showed similar composure, but achieved it differently. His movement appeared quieter and more mechanical, minimizing unnecessary muscular activity. The half-marathon split confirmed that both men were operating at historic speed. Crossing halfway around 61 minutes placed them directly inside world record territory. Maintaining that pace through 21 kilometers required extraordinary aerobic conditioning, but the more important question concerned how efficiently they could preserve biomechanical form during the final 10 kilometers where most marathons collapse. Around 25 kilometers, the lead group had been reduced dramatically. Only the strongest athletes remained near the front, and the tactical dynamics changed immediately. Once the pacemakers completed their work, Bekele and Kipsang became fully responsible for pace management. This phase often determines elite marathons because even minor hesitation or poorly timed surges can destroy rhythm and increase energy expenditure. Kipsang began introducing subtle tactical pressure rather than direct attacks. He drifted across the road occasionally, forcing Bekele to adjust positioning and preventing him from settling completely into a protected line. He also increased pace slightly through selected sections without launching a full acceleration. These changes were designed to test Bekele's reactions while gradually increasing physiological stress. Bekele responded calmly and efficiently. At one moment, he briefly lost the optimal racing line and allowed a small gap to form, but he closed it smoothly without overstriding or panicking. That response demonstrated strong energy management because aggressive corrections late in a marathon can rapidly elevate lactate levels and accelerate muscular fatigue. At 30 kilometers, Kipsang crossed in 1 hour, 27 minutes, and 26 seconds, still inside world record pace. Reaching that point at such speed meant both athletes were operating near maximum sustainable aerobic output. This is typically the stage where glycogen depletion begins affecting coordination and running economy. Small technical inefficiencies become magnified, especially during transitions in pace. The contrast between the two runners became even clearer after 30 kilometers. Kipsang maintained an extremely consistent cadence and stride length. His strategy focused entirely on rhythm protection. Bekele, however, continued introducing small, reactive accelerations that disrupted pace stability. These surges were not dramatic enough to create immediate separation, but they forced Kipsang to repeatedly adjust instead of remaining fully automatic biomechanically. Bekele's track background became a major advantage here. Years of elite championship racing had trained him to respond efficiently to pace changes under fatigue. Marathon specialists often prefer uninterrupted rhythm because constant accelerations increase metabolic cost. Bekele intentionally created micro changes in speed that slowly increased tactical pressure. Another important factor was ground contact efficiency. Late in marathons, fatigued runners spend slightly longer on the ground during each stride because muscular force production decreases. Kipsang's mechanics remained smooth, but Bekele still looked more explosive during transitions. His ability to maintain elastic rebound under fatigue helped preserve speed without excessive visible strain. Between 32 and 35 kilometers, the race entered its decisive physiological phase. Glycogen depletion, dehydration, and muscular breakdown now influenced every movement. Marathoners frequently describe this stage as the point where pace no longer feels controlled consciously. Instead, athletes fight simply to preserve mechanics and prevent collapse. Kipsang attempted to increase pressure gradually during this section. Rather than launching a sudden attack, he slightly increased rhythm through longer straights, testing whether Bekele's marathon endurance would weaken. Bekele refused to detach. More importantly, he avoided visible signs of distress. His posture stayed compact, and his cadence remained sharp. The psychological battle became extremely important because neither athlete wanted to reveal vulnerability first. In elite marathon racing, body language influences tactical decisions significantly. Small indicators such as tightening shoulders, reduced knee lift, or heavier foot strike can encourage opponents to attack aggressively. Bekele showed remarkable composure under those conditions. Even when Kipsang moved slightly ahead temporarily, Bekele responded with controlled accelerations instead of emotional reactions. That restraint preserved energy while maintaining tactical contact. At approximately 38 kilometers, the race transformed completely from endurance management into direct competition. Both athletes understood that the world record remained possible. But victory between them now became equally important. Kipsang still looked mechanically stable, yet slight changes in fluidity began appearing during pace increases. His stride remained efficient during steady rhythm, but reacted less effectively when acceleration was required. Bekele recognized this immediately. With just over 1 kilometer remaining, he launched the decisive move. The attack was not explosive in the style of middle-distance racing. Instead, it was a sustained increase in cadence and stride frequency delivered at the exact moment where fatigue limited Kipsang's responsiveness. Bekele accelerated gradually enough to avoid overwhelming his own physiology, but sharply enough to force an immediate answer. Kipsang attempted to respond, but his mechanics changed under pressure. His stride lost some fluidity, and his ground contact appeared heavier. Bekele, meanwhile, maintained better elastic rebound and superior turnover frequency. Those differences created separation quickly, despite both men already operating at extreme exhaustion. Passing through the Brandenburg Gate, Bekele glanced behind and recognized the gap was growing. That moment effectively ended the duel. From there, his focus shifted entirely toward preserving form through the finish. What made Bekele's final kilometer extraordinary was technical control under maximum fatigue. Many marathon runners overstride late when attempting to sprint, increasing braking forces and wasting energy. Bekele avoided that mistake. His cadence stayed compact and efficient, allowing him to maintain momentum without visible collapse. He crossed the finish line in 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 3 seconds, missing the world record by only 6 seconds while recording the second fastest marathon in history at that time. Kipsang followed in 2 hours, 3 minutes, 13 seconds. A performance fast enough to win almost any marathon in history, yet overshadowed because Bekele executed the decisive phase more effectively. The race demonstrated two different models of marathon excellence. Kipsang represented rhythm-based efficiency and sustained pacing discipline. Bekele represented adaptive racing intelligence combined with elite track-derived biomechanics. Over the first 35 kilometers, both approaches appeared equally effective. In the final kilometers, however, Bekele's superior responsiveness and acceleration capacity under fatigue became decisive. Berlin 2016 remains one of the greatest marathon duels ever because the race combined world record pace with direct tactical competition. Neither athlete relied purely on pacing mathematics. Both continuously pressured each other physically and psychologically, while operating near physiological limits for more than 2 hours.